Cat Feud is a really delightful cartoon. This is a Marc Anthony and Pussyfoot cartoon. I'm quite a fan of Marc Anthony. This one I obviously hadn't seen before, and when I started watching it, I wasn't aware of the timeline or the exact year it was released. And I actually wondered if it was the first Marc Anthony cartoon, because he's actually quite a grey colour rather than his usual brown. And I thought, is this maybe an early version of him? It turns out it's actually the last Marc Anthony and Pussyfoot cartoon. So I'm not sure why the decision was made to make him grey rather than his usual brown. If anybody has any information on that, please feel free to let me know. But it was released in 1958, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese. And we have Mel Blanc voicing everybody. And it starts off quite depressingly with a kitten in a bag. This kitten, of course, being the cat that we know as Pussyfoot. And Marc Anthony picks up this kitten, and honestly, it is adorable. I love Pussyfoot as a character. I love the design of the kitten. I think she or he is absolutely adorable. And this is set on a kind of a building yard, in a building yard, and there's this other cat that comes along who tries to have a go at the kitten, as another cat would if another cat enters its territory. And Marc Anthony has to do everything he can to try and protect this little kitten from this slightly evil-seeming cat. And because they're on a building site, there are a lot of things at their disposal, a lot of different levels they can climb onto, a lot of different apparatus that they can use and tools. So it's quite full on. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to look at. I think it's very well animated. It's very busy, but not overly so. It doesn't feel chaotic. It's quite easy to follow and quite pleasantly so as well. As always, I love the relationship between Marc Anthony and Pussyfoot. My favourite is when Pussyfoot is needing Marc Anthony. If you have a cat, if you've ever been needed by a cat, it is the weirdest mix of emotions that Marc Anthony clearly experiences by his facial expressions, where you feel this pure love from the cat who is comforting themselves by needing you, but also it hurts like nothing else. It is agony. So definitely love that Marc Anthony was experiencing this from the adorable kitten. I don't think it's my favourite Marc Anthony and Pussyfoot cartoon. There are not that many of them, compared to Daffy and Bugs Bunny and things. There are not that many of them, but of the ones I've seen, I think I've seen about 80% of them. Maybe a contender for near the top, but not my all-time favourite. It's adorable though. It's very well animated, an interesting narrative with some really fun characters. If you haven't seen Cat Feud, it's definitely one I recommend.